And now we move on to our next segment. On the table, over to you, Mohana.
Thank you very much, Sahi. Good evening and welcome to On the Table. Now, Malaysia is currently seeing a big surge in COVID-19 cases. Infections have been climbing over the past 2 months, and the Health Ministry says it will take 4 to 6 weeks before it starts to taper off. Now, although the current strain and surge in cases is expected to result in mainly mild symptoms, one concern would be its impact on the economy. With us live in the studio today is Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Razman Abdul Latif of the Putra Business School. Dr. Razman, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Now, Doctor, let's begin with investor confidence. So, should we be worried about whether foreign direct investments or domestic direct investments, FDIs and DDIs, would slow down due to the rise in the COVID cases?
Well, if you look into the current economic situation at the domestic level as well as the global stage, what we are seeing throughout this year is that the economic resilience is there. We have experienced 3 consecutive growth of GDP every quarter. And the other economic macro indicators like the inflation rate is low, very low, 1.8%, the unemployment rate about 3.2%, and we are still experiencing a positive trade balance and current account. And when talking about FDI, the MITI Minister Tengku Zafrul recently announced that in the first 9 months of the year, we have received about 230.7 billion ringgit FDI commitment, and more than 50% of it has been realized this year. So what I'm trying to say here that we have experienced a very positive growth for 2023, and when looking into this surge of COVID-19 cases, are we strong enough, or are we going to be susceptible to it? Well, I think the figures has indicated that we will not be experiencing the same situation last time back in 2020-2021. In fact, looking into all the report by the World Bank, by the Bank Negara even, everything still positive projection, even to the extent that they are projecting a higher growth next year. So at the moment, I think it's still too early to say whether we're going to be affected by this. After all, when we look into the global COVID cases beginning of the year, it's actually higher than now, but we are not really thinking about it. And of course, the cases going down throughout the middle of the year, and it seems to be cyclical due to the cold season, rainy season for us. So I think it's too early to say if this is going to be any impact on our economy.
Okay, and speaking about that, the Health Ministry just came out with a 5-point plan or a strategy to deal with this current rise. And from an economic point of view, would that help? Does it boost investor confidence somewhat when the government comes out with plans like this?
Yes, it's very important to immediately come up with any announcement or measures to make sure that, or actually to signal to the public that the government is looking into it, and not just looking into it, but actually doing something about it by coming up with that 5-point plan. And the investors surely will be looking into this as well. But of course, when we look into all this announcement, the implication of it also must be considered, whether it's going to be the short-term measures or going to be a long-term in nature. And when we look into this 5-point plan, I think most importantly, we don't want to be too strict about it, meaning that I don't think we want to impose certain restriction on the people movement or the closing of certain business sector, or restricting the coming of tourists into the country. So the plan that I was reading when they announced it is actually more towards something that we have been doing all this while, like practicing social distancing and making sure we follow all the SOP procedures set by the ministry. So because of that, looking from the angle of investors, whether local or international investors, they are watching, they are analyzing and looking into all these possibilities. But most importantly, transparency, immediate intervention from the government is necessary to ensure that it won't escalate into something that become like 2-3 years ago. And again, by having this kind of announcement, a certain like this 5-point plan is enough at the moment to assure the investors that we know what is happening, we are monitoring it, we are preparing for it, and that's actually good enough for these investors.
And no need to panic.
No need for panic. Okay.
Okay. Doctor, now this sudden surge in cases also being observed throughout the world. It's not just here. Of course, regionally, we are observing the same trend as Malaysia, but all over the world, the case numbers are going up. So whatever happens globally will also affect Malaysia. So should we be perhaps getting ready for some kind of a slowdown? Do you think, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, of course, when we're talking about slowdown economies, it can be caused by many factors. But I think more crucial for us to look at actually what's happening out there, the geopolitical situation, the Ukraine-Russia crisis, the Palestine-Israel, and as well as actually the tariff war between US and China is still ongoing. And all this situation is actually far more, for me, worse implication than the recent surge of COVID-19. Because after all, when we look into the latest surge, what's different, what happened now than the previous cases is actually the mild symptom, majority actually experiencing a mild symptom, meaning when we look into the number of deaths, it's not as high as before. So meaning that even though there's a possibility that the economy will be affected, but it is actually more towards the other factors. When we look into, for example, the slightly negative growth of our trade balance last month, that's actually due to the fact that China has been experiencing contraction in their economy for the past 2 months, negative inflation rate, negative 0.5% in November. So that's actually more a bigger concern than the current surge of COVID-19. But of course, we cannot discount it.
Of course.
We have to be aware and mindful. But I think what's on every investor's mind right now is what's going to happen to the geopolitical situation that we are looking at the global stage right now.
And speaking about that, if this escalates further, assuming it bucks the trend or it becomes a bigger concern, the implications, I presume, would be quite severe. So would small businesses be affected? Will the ringgit slide? What are we looking at? If the current number of cases becomes really more severe, and talking globally and locally?
I think what's going to be different this time, we are more prepared as a government. We don't have all those political instability. It's a very strong unity government, and the health facilities and the hospital, the clinics are pretty much well prepared with all the infrastructure. Even the people, we know what we are supposed to do. And as long and when talking about businesses, they have transformed themselves towards digitalization, automation, meaning that when talking about delivering their product and services, it's not necessarily have to be a traditional or conventional model, but now everything is online. Even I think majority of us started to use cashless payment, which actually another form of social distancing or health related kind of activity, because we are not touching too much of all our money. But then what is really more important is that all this will not have an impact on the economy if we didn't move towards the movement control order or the closure of section or academic sector, meaning that even though the cases become so high and the number of deaths is increasing, but if we can still utilize all the SOP and we are doing what we have done before in making sure that we will be contained, I'm sure without resorting to the movement control order, without resorting to closure of sector,
severe actions.
So we will not be affected by too much.
Now, Doctor, I do need to ask you something. I'm looking at some statistics from the Health Ministry. It's showing that the current rise in cases are highest among people aged between 18 and 49, particularly 30 to 39. Now, these are groups very firmly in the working population. So how concerned should we be about lower productivity at the workplace if people are staying at home?
Okay, I think that's the reason why this is the majority that contracted the virus, because they are in the probably close area in the office. They are in constant communication or meeting people in their workplace and in the retail area. And when we're talking about this group, first we don't have to worry too much, because majority of the symptom mild. So meaning they can just simply take a time off from the office. But what actually what I can say positive aspect of it is that I think almost every organization have started to implement a facility or a platform for them to continue work from home. Maybe some people will say how this. So
do you think we should bring that back into the mainstream, the work from home?
I think,
should employers start thinking about maybe we should all work from home?
Well, surprisingly,
because there's mixed reviews about this, right? Some people like it, some don't. Some feel the productivity is not there when working from home.
Interestingly, last month I brought my student, MBA student, to visit one of the company in KL, and we were surprised to see there are not many people working in the office, because they found out that when they work from home, somehow they manage to increase the productivity even. So it ups to the organization. Some still continuing having work from home policy because they can see the benefit coming from it. Of course, it doesn't apply to every sector.
Perhaps it depends on the nature of the job as well.
But it will not stop people from being productive, because it's not just simply staying at home, but we're also talking about the availability of other facilities that can help them to contribute to the organization, even though they are away from the office.
Dr. Razman, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for your valuable insights. We hope to have you again on the show.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And that wraps up Malaysia Tonight. Together with SAHIH Samsudin, I'm Mohana Priya. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching.